Okay, welcome to the second game between Pavel Litvak and Eugeny Iglitsky. So Evgeny will play for Santa, and Pavel is Gota in this game. The difference of level between the opponents is quite big, but I still hope for an interesting game, and it's gonna start very soon. Yeah, just please let me know if you can hear me, because I'm getting messages that there are some problems with the sound. So just please leave a comment if you can hear me. Thank you. Hello everyone in the chat. The stream from the Ginkamori club seems working. The board is ready for our analysis. Yeah, just I wonder whether the sound works. Yeah, I see the messages that it works. That's really good. I'm glad that people appreciate us starting streaming in English, and we really hope that it's gonna be a common practice. We'll start doing it regularly if you guys like it. And the only way for us to see whether you like it is your likes and subscriptions. So please be generous about that. Okay, just checking whether the game has started. Seems like it has not yet. And if I'm behind the position, just leave the comments. The processes are still not perfect. We are working on that, but sometimes I just might miss some subtle details. Yeah, don't hesitate to discuss the position in the chat, and I'll try to read everything you ask and consider different ideas. I see that Victor doesn't speak Russian in the chat. Where are you from? Just tell us. We are glad to see people from different countries here. That's why we actually started that. We've noticed that a lot of people follow our tournaments, but we want to establish this closer communication between our clubs in Belarus and other countries. Yeah, the game is about to start. Actually, I'm already receiving messages that it has started. Yeah, thanks a lot. So we see that Santa went for an open bishop diagonal, and Gotha just pushed the rook pawn. I'm expecting that this might be a sign of a third file rook, and maybe because we know that Evgeny, who plays for Santa, is a big fan of that opening, and he was probably hoping for the open bishop diagonal, but it didn't happen. So now he might consider different kinds of I forgot the name of a non-static rook. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So, but yeah, so Evgeny just follows his favorite moves. He pushes the pawn, and we're gonna see a sunken bishop played by Santa here. But the question is, does Gotha is Gotha going to open the bishop diagonal here? There are So there are a lot of different sharp openings with the open bishop diagonal, but if it stays like that, we're gonna probably see a slower place. Um, I would also already think of different sneaky attacks by pushing this pawn and moving the bishop here. I guess that's why Gote is taking his time to think of a proper move sequence, because in these kind of openings it's actually it's similar to the previous game when opponents played Yoko Fedori inspired opening, and we were expecting a sharp fight, but it happened to be a very positional a very positional game after all. And I wonder if this game is gonna be like that. So from now we're expecting a sharp fight, but who knows, maybe it will transfer to a more closed mid game after that. Gotha advances his silver to defend this 7-3 square, and totally expected that center would move their rook to the third file, and I mean seventh file, and center's ideas are pretty clear here to play the sunken bishop, and classic advancement like floating the rook, probably moving the bishop here, and advancing the silver with the king being castled on the right hand side. Oops. For the static rook side, I think it's totally fine just to push the pawn here, but maybe it's better to leave this option for later and open this pawn to move silver here, and it has two goals. First of all, silver would defend the 7-4 square, and second of all, it opens it gives some opportunities for the Gotha side to play a Migi and Bishop strategy, which is basically a right hand side fourth file rook. Also, by moving silver on the 6-3 square, it allows us to add the golden general into this dangerous flank. Yeah, but our players just decided to castle at this point. And just as I said earlier, all of a sudden, instead of escalating this position, they're just going for castling and a more stable mid game. Yeah, I can see Ivan commenting on Santa's sunken bishop. Seems like he really appreciates his skills in this opening. So yeah, it's indeed interesting to see what Pavel has in his sleeve against this strategy. I don't know, and so from my experience, almost every single player has his own way of handling sunken bishop. For example, if it comes to me, I have some specific move sequences for Evgeny's sunken bishop. Right, so, and here Santa decide to open up the position. Pavel simply takes the pawn, and the engine suggests simply taking the pawn for Santa. And having a pawn to drop is always a good thing. It's a small advantage which Santa can gain right here, right now. Thanks everyone for joining the stream. Don't forget to like it. Don't forget to subscribe on our channel. As you can see, we constantly create Shogi related content for you, not only from Minsk, but also from other locations. And and I hope that these kind of streams in English language are going to be happening more often. And chances are high that I will also stream the finals of this tournament. And so subscribe and make sure you get the notification when the big games come. Right, and so seems like Evgeny's plan for this game is just to apply as much pressure as possible, and since he has a high rank, much higher rank, I would say, he will try to force his opponent to make mistakes. And seems like Santa chooses the sharpest sequence of moves here. So taking rook is a bad idea, because after that Santa get a really active promoted bishop here with further ideas of just gaining even more material and dropping rook. So that would be game over immediately. And again, for Gotha this trade is disadvantageous because there is nowhere to drop this rook. I think that Pavel should see that, and probably he won't take it. And let's see what his options are. Simply ignoring is dangerous as well, because this silver is only defended by one piece. And let's say if Pavel just skips the turn, I'm expecting something like this to happen, and I think it's better for black as well. So potential moves could be moving his silver, somewhat defending it, or like this. Not exactly sure what's the best option. And Pavel chooses just to defend with the golden general. And I think it's a good safe move. It allows it defends the rook, so it threatens this capture. So let's say if black just ignore, then this is gonna happen, and Gotha get more material after this trade. Even though it's not an easy game, but it's already much better than the previous position. And Evgeny doesn't want to go for this line, and he just retreats his rook. So this is the position we have right now. So Pavel managed to defend his third file, and also now he has a pawn in hand, but I think he's kind of forced to drop it, because if opponent drops it, it might cause some problems. Let me show you what I mean. If Gotha allows Santa to drop, something like this is gonna happen, and I think it's better for black. Yeah, and Pavel sees that's a threat. He does everything right. and he just simply drops this pawn. So what we can see is that black managed to get a pawn in hand, and might be considered to be a small advantage, but they had to spend a lot of moves on that. The bishop is now kind of out of position, so black might consider moving it somewhere here to keep applying pressure on the rook. And let's see where it can go. Actually, moving this pawn here would be probably not a good idea because it will forces the bishop trade, and it seems like Santa is less ready for that since they don't have a proper castle yet. Okay, sorry, I think I went too far in my considerations. What I wanted to say that it seems like Santa made a lot of moves but didn't achieve much, and according to the engine, Gotta have a small advantage now, so it kind of correlates with what I've said. So Santa just close this diagonal, and I guess they do it to prevent further trades of these bishops. So I think I can imagine that Santa want to keep this pressure on the rook and are planning on moving this bishop somewhere back to the camp. For Gotha, I think they're doing great. Solid position. I would consider just castling. So this is the first obvious move, and maybe even to go for this Elmo-inspired defensive formation. But again, it depends. There is no like only one best solution for these kind of problems. The engine also suggests an interesting attacking idea by pushing this silver here. So if Santa, in reply to this move, just retreat, I think there are some ideas like this one here. Requires some calculation to figure out whether it's a good plan or not, but if computer suggests this one, I guess it should be okay. Right, but Pavel just wants to make sure this bishop is not really a threat anymore, and he just blocks the diagonal by pushing the pawn. And I guess his plan is to develop this golden general later towards the higher horizontal lines. Evgeny doesn't want to give up, obviously, on this diagonal, and pushes his pawn here with some ideas of pushing it further later in the game or just trading. And also I think he's creating some space for these silver general advancements. Let me check what's going on in the chat, haven't checked it for a while. Hello to everyone, happy to see you on this stream. Hello. I see more people joining. That's really good. I'm happy to watch this game with you guys. Smash that like button, invite your friends. You know what to do. Right, so it's got this move right now. So the engine suggests to force the bishop trade, and I guess that actually this trade would be better for white because of this this square, so Sant is kind of forced here to move his bishop away, and this is kind of a good move. Yeah, it would be a good move for Gotha to gain control over this diagonal and maybe gaining some extra material further when the trades start. But let's see what Pavel decides, and yeah, actually we managed to figure out the Pavel's plan, and he simply advances his golden general. I think it's a good position for it. Later he can somewhat try just to move it back to the castle if the game gets slower. And also I see some kind of sneaky attacking ideas of capturing the bishop. So Eugeny should keep it in mind and calculate it carefully whether he's afraid of such things or not. And I think that Eugeny should create an escape route for his bishop because of this square. As soon as Gotha gets the bishop, Center are in big trouble until they somehow either defend the square or find a safe spot for the knight. But as you might know, the best defense is offense. And again, Eugeny just tries to kind of test his opponent and keeps applying pressure, keeps finding the sharpest continuations, and trying to force mistakes from the opponent's side. So far, actually, it's been working. At least the game is still pretty equal. So I think he sees no obstacles to continue this plan. However, the engine doesn't see any threats from this push and just suggests simply castling the king, creating more safety around it. And to be fair, yeah, seems like losing this pawn is only advantageous for white because yeah, they just get the pawn in hands and not losing much from that trade. So this would force the bishop to escape on this some kind of awkward position, and also it will allow to push back the rook. So I think probably this turn wasn't the preferred one, and Sanders should have thought just of castling their king. But according to the engine, it's not bad. Evgeny just should make sure that he doesn't push the pawn further and just defends his king, finally. Yeah, Pavel does everything right. He just castles the king. It's no rush. The question now is what Evgeny is gonna do. I'm pretty sure he has already calculated all these things we've just seen, and it's very likely he just will go for castling. I see some suggestions for Pavel to go into a silver crown formation. Yeah, it would be possible if the exchange, if the trade happened, but after this move here, I think it's not likely to happen. So most likely we're gonna either see this how's it called? I think it's called Edu wall. Anyway, so we're gonna see either this wall as a castle for Gotha, or maybe if they have one more turn, they're gonna go for Elmo kind of castle. Right, so Evgeny's thinking. I think he's trying to find some more aggressive moves, but it's very unlikely there is anything here. Moving his silver general is kind of slow now. I would rather make sure your king is in safety first, just in case of any sudden escalations. Okay, let me have a sip of water. So, I think it's called Edo Wall. No, I'm not sure. I don't, to be honest, don't remember. Sorry, I didn't do my homework. Not exactly sure. You might be right. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so what did I want to say? Yeah, just let me know what do you think of the game so far. Which side would you prefer, static rook or non-static rook? I'm personally a static rook player, so I enjoy watching. Yeah, I personally prefer static rook, and that's why I better understand how it works. But at the same time, that's why it's interesting to watch the game from the Evgeny's viewpoint, just to see how it feels from the third file rook side. It's interesting what takes so long. But let me remind you that this is one of the major tournaments we hold in Minsk, and it takes place during a couple of months. So first of all, we have tournaments where people qualify for the playoff. Um, it's been like 4 tournaments in different rank groups. The latest one was the tournament among Dan players. It was a really good one. We didn't have any English streams, but you can see Kifus and you can see some Russian streams in Russian language. I mean, yeah. So it's been a lot of qualifications, and now it's playoff where people compete to get a right to fight for the big for the cup. I'm not sure whether I can. No, I cannot unfortunately show it now. But if somebody uses Reddit, I shared the bracket there. And on the next week, we are expecting some big Dan games. And the winner of these playoffs is gonna compete for this cup against the previous champion, our Minsk player Anton Starikevich, who is currently fourth Dan. I think it's gonna be very exciting. Okay. Let me see if my stream is actually working and I see the current position in this game, because it has not been any changes for a while. At this point, actually, the engine likes Pavel's position much more. And I guess, as we discussed earlier, it's because Santa lost a lot of moves on this attack and didn't gain much advantages from that. At the same time, Gottes king is already castled, and Santa's king is still sitting in its initial spot. But it's not a big difference, and it's still quite an equal fight. Yeah, so what I wanted to say, I totally forgot. So yeah, it's a big tournament, and this tournament is famous for its time controls. It's very unusual for European tournaments to have a big time control, but we do it for this tournament, and players in these playoffs have 1 hour per game, and 1 minute additional time after that. So that's why I think Evgeny takes his time and just tries to come up with a plan for this game. He can afford that. Can afford doing that, I mean. Yeah, so somebody's telling me that Anton has already gained 5th dan. Yeah, so it's even more exciting. It's like beating a dragon to win this tournament. What do you think Evgeny's next moves gonna be like? Will he choose aggressive moves, or will just castle? Oh, okay. Sorry, seems like I had a delay. Interesting continuation. So Evgeny chooses to transition from the sunken bisha to shaken bisha and apply more pressure on this 4th file. From the first view, I think just moving rook here will do the trick. But the engine has even an easier solution. Oh yeah, and we discussed it earlier. These ideas of capturing the bishop. I'm not sure whether... Oh, okay, so in this variation, this square is covered by the rook. Maybe something like this. Yeah, so seems like the engine's line is just moving this bishop away and creating some space for the rook. And let's say center takes, Gotha takes. Not sure whether it's possible to take it. Probably not a good idea. But I think that Gotha should be pretty happy about this position. Yeah, Ivan in the chat says that this gold 5-4 looks crushing. I'm not sure whether it's like... you might be right. The engine likes this position for white much more. Doesn't seem like... To me, it doesn't seem like it's crushing yet. I don't really see an obvious win for Gotha, but I like Gotha's position more, of course. Yeah, I think black is forced to take. Oh, okay. Yeah. I see now. So there is this move. But can we allow? No, probably not. Okay, I don't know what I'm thinking about. This is like a very big threat. Yeah, you might be right. So seems like gold 5-4 is winning here. I wonder whether Pavel is going to go for this line. Okay. And I see in the chat this line is even suggested. Yeah, like a lot of good ideas. Positionally, it's much better for Gotti here. Totally agree with the engine and with the chat. But Eugeny is a very strong player, so I'm pretty sure he'll find his way to make this position as sharp as possible to turn the tables. Okay. Sorry, just checking whether everything is working. Contacting the team behind the stream. And meanwhile, hopefully, we'll see another move to discuss. Okay, seems like everything is fine. All it working. Let's see whether any moves were played. And wow. So we can see that Pavel Pavel found it. He sees this move and he moves the gold. Yeah, I think these are really bad news for Evgeny, and he'll need to improvise now. A very solid play by Pavel, even though he's six ranks lower than Evgeny, but we can see that it doesn't really bother him. He shows solid understanding of the position. All the pieces are at right spots. Castle is made. I think Evgeny probably underestimated his opponent a little bit. But Shogi is all about the end game, and this is where Evgeny shines. So I think we might see an interesting continuation of this from this position. It makes it only more exciting. This is what I would say. So it's very likely we're gonna see the bishop being pushed back, and I'm wondering about this move. Seems like ignoring the bishop wouldn't be a good idea, but at the same time, this knight is a weakness, so Eugeny will have to kind of lose his turns and move the rook back. This case, probably simply taking a pawn is already good. And after that, just calmly advancing the generals. Let me know if I'm missing something. Looks like something like that. And also another thing which I saw is taking here, but this might be not the best. I see it now that there are moves like this. It doesn't seem like a problem for Gotha. Good thing that Gotha castled the king and they have this spot covered now. Yeah, I think whatever Gotha does here, they are getting an obvious advantage. So I believe this is the position we have now. Yeah, so Evgeny retreated his bishop. The main move by the engine, and of course by Ivan, is opening the bishop diagonal. Yeah, it seems like, yeah, I agree with that. It's more straightforward continuation, just to push back the rook and slowly keep applying the pressure on this weak, very weak left flank. I think it was much better to castle the king earlier for Evgeny, because after all these escalations, which moreover didn't go in his favor, his king is too vulnerable here right now. So it's like he's behind in development in terms of the castle, and he's behind in his attack, which continued with Gotha's counterattack and led to their success. Yeah, it seems like a big disaster for Santa. But it's not over yet, and different things might happen. Evgeny tries to... Yeah, so got to open the diagonal, and Evgeny tries to improvise here. So moving here is absolutely bad, and I guess he made his bid on this defense. It's extremely vulnerable, very risky play. The engine suggests moving the rook, but I wonder whether simply... Okay, it's again the same problem with the knight. Yeah, I think just moving the rook on this file is a great idea, and there is no way it's possible to build a proper defense on the left side. So from now on, center is going to struggle. Okay, let me check the chat. Don't be shy, take part in the discussion. Always happy to check your ideas. And maybe tell us who's your favorite. Just small reminder that you can like this video. I would be happy about that. So if you want to make me happy, that's the first thing you should do. The time for both players seems pretty equal. If I'm right, Pavel spent just a little bit more time yet. It's hard to tell. Somebody sees the time, share in the chat. But it's still plenty of time, around 40 minutes for both players. So it's gonna be exciting time. And hopefully we'll see some really nice, I would say deep moves. It's very likely that on the next week I'll stream some other games. And let me see what games are gonna happen real quick. Right, let me share my screen. For those who doesn't know, we have a website. From what I know, it's only in Russian language, but using Google Chrome extensions, it's very easy to translate it to English. And yeah, and you can see the playoff bracket. So currently, we watched today this game between Alexei and Maxim. Maxim won it. And now we are watching the games between Pavel and Evgeny. I won't be able to stream this game on the next week because I'm taking part in it and I'm going to play against the winner of the game we are watching right now. But I will try, I will do my best to find time to stream other games, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna like them because it's gonna be a play by Karchitsky Sergey. We're gonna see a game by Tanyan Vincent. Maybe somebody knows a really good Russian player, Titov Denis. So a lot of exciting games which I'll be able to stream. So make sure you subscribe to our channel and click all the buttons to make sure you get the notification when the next game happens. And let me share this link with you. Right, so hopefully now you are back to our main streaming scene. And while we were talking about the tournament, something happened. Right, so Pavel chose to push the rook pawn. It's actually logical because this rook moved and lost its control over the 8-6 square. And I believe Evgeny used this chance to attack on the 6th file. And yeah, seems like this pawn push was a bit slow, and now position is getting closer to equal. So Pavel takes the pawn. Quite a dangerous sequence he chose. But according to the engine, it's still a bit better for Gote. take. Yeah, and Evgeny takes with the bishop, so it's very likely we're gonna see this kind of trades right now. So let me play it. So what's gonna likely to happen is some kind of these moves. And in general, I think it would be beneficial for Santa, but since Evgeny did not castle his king, it's still a bit better for Gota if I see it right. Yeah, I see people being unsure about Pavel's decisions. Yeah, I think he had safer continuations, but when you play the game, it's not always obvious what path to choose, and it's still okay. So the engines actually suggest here not taking this bishop, but to apply some pressure on it by moving Goddess Rook on the 4th file. And yeah, again, this decision was hard, and now it pays back. This Rook is really weak here and easy to capture. So if bishop goes away, the Rook is lost. But since Santa managed to capture the silver general, this position is considered to be equal, even after this really nasty pin. I see more and more people joining. Really glad to see that. Make sure you leave some comments. Always happy to discuss the current position. Share your ideas. And I'll do my best to find time to consider it. And moreover, we have good time controls here, so we have time for that. Yeah, so Pavel does the right decision. He moves his rook, and seems like Evgeny really doesn't like it. So he has to drop his pawn here. And this makes this rook even more vulnerable. Because it has only 2 squares to escape, and after some sequence of moves, Gota managed to get some general in hand, this is a very dangerous spot for attacks. Now the engine actually suggests to draw pawn here. Let's see what if rook takes. Actually, I don't really see what's the problem. Oh, rook cannot take, sorry. Just realized. So the rook has to go back. And the line here is, I believe, like that. Yeah, so very weak square here, and even though Santa has 2 generals, it's really difficult to defend this position. let's actually see it one more time. So what are other options? I think it's the only way. And now it's Santa's move. How can Santa defend? Yeah, there are a lot of problems here. I'm not sure whether moves like this gonna work. Because after that, it's getting really dangerous. This promotion is hardly can be stopped. These sacrifices are scary. So but I think it's defendable. What might be other options? Maybe simply pushing here. General cannot be dropped here because it's defended. And there is no way to defend the knight. So the best thing Santa can do is to drop a pawn here. Yeah, it looks like a really tough game for Santa, even though it's likely to be somewhat an equal position, but it's not obvious how to advance. And it puts a lot of pressure on Santa, so Gota should feel alright here. But what actually happened? But something else happened actually. Very different from the position we've seen. So, okay, it's like a different order, I believe. So Gota decided to capture the bishop first, and probably they're considering dropping the pawn now. It might actually make the difference, but not likely that it's very different from what we've just seen. Yeah, I agree with Ivan that it's really interesting what is Santa's plan after the pawn is dropped here. It's a lot of pressure on them. Of course, they can just simply go for castling, but in that case, this is a very, very nasty pawn here. So it's not obvious how to get initiative for Santa here, and it seems like there are some options since the position is pretty equal according to the engine, but I don't know what to do. It requires some strong considerations. Let me see if I haven't messed up the position. No, seems right. It reminds me a lot of the first game. When the game slowed down after some intense trades, and after that it's not really obvious for one side what to do, even though the engine disagrees with that. So, right. Pavel chooses a move which we haven't considered and directly attacks the rook. Again, these squares are covered, so the rook has only one way to escape is... Actually, wait, why haven't we seen this move? So if rook escapes here, this is gonna be a big trouble. So I guess Santa have no choice but to counterattack here. And this is exactly what happened. And to be honest, I'm a bit worried for Gotha now because the castle is weak. Santa managed to get a lot of material, a lot of. But Gotha still have time. They can create another bishop, and the most important thing which we discussed, this king is even unsafer than this one, and it might make the difference. Very sharp position, very interesting. And now it's almost everything now depends on the end game skills of both players. I imagine that it's gonna be hard for Gotha as a less experienced player, but he already surprised us many times in this game, and I think it's gonna be an interesting end game. Yeah, so Pavel had an opportunity for a slower positional game where he would likely gain a lot of advantages. But now I would say it looks kind of like 50-50. Which is not always bad when you face a stronger opponent. It creates some more space for mistakes. Of course for both sides, but it's kind of beneficial for a less skilled player. So I can understand what he does. So, okay. And now Gota's turn. I like how Pavel takes time to consider different attacking opportunities. He doesn't like straight ahead take the knight. I think he's trying to come up with a plan for this end game. Even though the Santa's king is vulnerable, Gotha don't have much material. That's why I think taking a knight here is a really good move. And it seems like engine in Greece, and moreover, if I see it right. Oh, okay, so I think I don't really like Pavel's decision here. I think it's probably the first like, major mistake from his side. He didn't use this opportunity to promote his bishop, which is now going to be only a problem for him because it's also an escaping route for the king. Yeah, and Evgeny chooses this opportunity to create an attack and drops his rook. It's not like it's already over for Pavel, but according to the engine, Santa is favorite now, and yeah, Pavel lost some speed by this move. Yeah, I'm afraid that was the turning point in this game because creating an attack for Gotha now is very difficult. So he will have to move his promoted bishop back. So it's a lot of lost time. Very unfortunate, but it's Shogi. Mistakes are made. Um, the engine suggests this move. with two ideas in mind. First, to capture this gold, and the second, I think, to apply some pressure for these pieces. So somewhat defensive move, and actually this is almost what Pavel does. He drops his rook here. Yeah, but I think it can be easily defended like this. I think it should go right. But the engine suggests even a more active move. The bishop has to move here. Since Gotha lacks material a lot, it makes sense to capture lands here. Yeah, but doesn't look good for Gotha anymore. Doesn't look good. It's gonna be really hard to create any attacks here. This seems like the only option. This bishop is way too inactive now. But maybe it would make a plan could be to sacrifice the bishop for the silver general and promote the rook. It could have been better to do it earlier though, but yeah, there are still some attacking ideas. That's why I would just consider closing this file and just going for a straightforward attack here. Actually, maybe not now. Maybe first sorry. I would probably firstly promote the rook and maybe gain a bit more material. Oh, okay, you can... No, okay, yeah. And after that, promote the rook. Yeah, the advantage is huge, but it's still not one-sided, and any mistake by center might lead to an equal game again. Yeah, unfortunately, Pavel surprised me more with his 7/7 bishop capture. Yeah, I'm not sure why he did not consider promoting his other bishop. I think it's just a blunder. He probably miscalculated something. It seems like he can do much better than that. Okay, let me check everything while we are waiting. While we have this posing game, just reminding that we're gonna have more games next week. Stay tuned. Alright, so is it any updates on the board? Yeah, so Evgeny goes for a safer move and just blocks this file entirely, which cuts off the rook from the further attacking ideas. I like this move a lot. It seems very natural. It's not very clear what to do with this rook further. because I mean, it plays for defense just a little bit, but not really, because if Gotha makes some move now, we can just promote here, and it's not clear how to stop this attack. Gotha gonna lose material here, and this is not an option because of these moves. Yeah, so interesting move, but I'm not a big fan of it. The rook looks out of play now, and it seems like the only thing left to Gotha now is to gain some material. Maybe then bring back the bishop here. Not sure. It's very unfortunate that both these bishops now kind of mess up with each other. It would be much better to have one of those bishops on a different diagonal. The engine suggests escaping this knight. Makes sense. So now the rook can only take the lands. I don't know. It looks very desperate, and it seems like it wouldn't be a problem to Evgeny to finish this game. The attack for him is way too straightforward. Yeah, I know. So this rook, yeah, it will defend this file for a few more moves, but it's very easy to go around it, and to create some kind of an attack for Gotha will take forever, unfortunately. Pavel takes his time here to consider what to do. I guess he still should just go for the lance. He really needs some attacking pieces. It's not much he can do with this knight here. Pavel makes up his mind, and he simply drops pawn here. Don't think it does much, to be honest. So actually, Evgeny can even. Okay, ignoring is not a good idea. But even after this trade, this rook still has to retreat. So Pavel won't achieve much with this engagement, and moreover will pass the turn to Evgeny. But seems like Evgeny chooses even a sharper continuation. Actually not, it's more defensive. He drops general here. So it's both attacking the rook and covers, threatens to take this pawn. The main idea now is a tempo attack on this pawn with Gotha's rook. It seems to me that it's way too passive. It was way too passive to drop this silver here. There is not that much of a big threat on the fourth file for this defense. Moreover, after something like this, Gotha can trade the pawn. Yeah, I think it's not the best move from Evgeny, but he's still leading, for sure. Let's see what Pavel does in this position. Probably Pavel just is considering whether he might get any counterattacks if he moves his rook there, but it seems like shouldn't be a problem. Moreover, applying some pressure on this file might turn out to be very good in the endgame to box this king in the middle of the board between the rook's pressure and the bishop's pressure. Pavel goes for a very dangerous continuation. He takes, he creates this token and sacrifices the rook. This is super risky because this rook battery will cause a lot of trouble soon. And of course Pavel just takes golden general here. I wouldn't say that it's bad if I didn't see that Evgeny has already built up a strong attack, and adding more pieces here is disastrous. Good thing this token doesn't work straight away because Evgeny dropped his silver here. But maybe even just dropping the golden general is already a big threat. I think there is a defense here. Maybe something like that. Probably too early. I think Santa should consider just dropping a rook somewhere in the opponent's camp, and they should do more than fine. Yeah, and this is what Evgeny does. He just drops the rook into the attack, so next move by Santa will crush the Gota's defensive formation. Now the question is, what can Gota do? Seems like it's kind of too late for defensive moves. So maybe creating some escape route by moving this bishop into the attack might work. Of course, it's already not many chances for Gota to get out of this clean. But there is always some space for mistakes, and Gota should look for some nice moves to escalate the position, to find some attacking ideas. The engine disagrees with me and just suggests to drop the gold in defense. I think it's idea to sacrifice the golden general, and after that gotta have a couple of moves, extra moves, because Actually, no, it still look pretty bad for Gotha because of this rook sacrifice. Yeah, this is gonna be pretty bad after this move. Yeah, I don't know about this defense. It really seems like it's kind of too late for that. What might be other ideas? I would probably try to drop this one, because if Santa ignores that, this looks kind of dangerous. If Santa don't ignore it, it's also kind of good, because we managed to put a knight here for some further attacking ideas. If we get a chance for that, pushing this pawn is not possible. I mean, it's dangerous. And I'm not sure, probably we don't have time to gain material here. I don't know, maybe some naive moves like this looks crazy, but might work. At least it's somewhat an attack, and it creates problem to Evgeny to deal with. Defending probably is... Okay, let's see how the position changed. Yeah, interesting. Pavel decided to do it much earlier than it would be good. Yeah, okay, I actually didn't notice that. Sorry. Gotta actually have no time because there is this rucksack. King takes, I can imagine talking moves. Yeah, totally missed this one. Yeah, it seems like this is Atsumi. Yeah, yeah, it must be a checkmate here. 3 generals, and I'm afraid this is the end of the game. Yeah, so it was a very interesting opening. Pavel showed some skills here, but Evgeny managed to hold his furious attack and use his chance when he found one. Just a reminder that we're gonna have more games on the next week with some top players like Rabchinsky and Tanyan. Make sure you don't forget to follow us in all social networks, and hopefully we're gonna see even more exciting games next week. And I think at this point Pavel gave up. So thanks a lot for joining. It was a joy to watch these games with you, and hopefully to see you next week. Until the next time, bye bye.